Hello, everyone, and welcome to my reading of Infinite Dendrogram. It's a light novel that I actually got for free quite a long time ago. I figured I might as well put it to good use. Actually read the damn thing. But before we get to the story, I think we should take a look through the character introductions. We familiarize ourselves with our story's characters, whose names I will forget. I'm sure. So our main character is Ureji Mukudori, and his character's name is Ray Starling, or better known as Ray. And Reggie Mukudori is a young man who, upon finishing his college entrance exams, began playing Infinite Dendrogram. Though generally a calm person, he has a strong will, a sense of righteousness that allows him to keep struggling for as long as he needs to. Sounds like your typical MC. Sounds awesome. Nemesis. Nemesis is a girl that manifested as Ray's embryo. She can change into weapons, and her first form allows her to become a greatsword. She also has quite an impressive appetite. Nice, nice. Lolly with a big appetite. I like that character trope. Rook Holmes. A newbie boy who Ray met out in the fields. His features are stunning, gentle, and according to him, there's little difference between his virtual looks and his real life looks. His job is pimp, and he primarily fights by using tamed monster. That's freaking awesome. Babylon. Babylon is Rook's embryo, an innocent and lovable succubus whose version of seduction doesn't go beyond shoulder massages and lap pillows. All thanks to the fact that her master is underage. Sick, nice. Liliana Grandria. The first Tian. The first NPC Ray ever encountered. Ray's first quest started due to her sister going missing. She's the vice commander of the Knights of the Royal Guard and has great popularity among the people of the country. Shu Starling? Shuichi Mukudori. You. Ray's real life brother, and the person who invited him to play the game in the first place. He wears a bear suit because, during character creation, he accidentally made his face look exactly the same as it was in real life. Is that a big deal? Do people care about that? Or maybe it's a big deal because of the extreme realism of a virtual online MMORPG. Alright, well, let's get Sori on the road. Counter absorption. Nemesis spawned barrier of light just in time to stop Gargandra's first fist from hitting me directly, which greatly lowered its damage. Whoa. Cool force field. Chapter 0. Infinite Dendrogram. July 15th, 2043. On this date, the VR MMO Infinite Dendrogram was released around the world. It had been nearly half a century since man had first dreamt of a VR MMO, which if you didn't know stands for Virtual Reality Massively Multiplayer Online Game. In the 2000s, a variety of media such as manga, anime, and video games began to incorporate VR MMOs into their stories as the ultimate dream game. From among a sea of creative entertainment, people eagerly looked forward to the release of a VR MMO. And in the early 2010s, quasi-VR headsets were released, offering enhanced quality of sight and sound immersion. Although at first a mere product of fantasy, VR MMOs were anticipated, developed, and then finally given form. In the 2030s, a small number of full-dive VR MMO games were released, allowing players to enter game worlds using all 5 of their senses. The reason so few were released was due to the difficulty and enormous cost of development. This meant that only companies with leading technology and sufficient resources could even make an attempt. Or perhaps more were attempted, but never completed. However, the few completed games that did make it out into the world were quickly met with disappointment. Unlike the VR MMOs depicted in fiction, these one lacked in realism. They assailed the senses with discomfort, and their graphics were hardly any different than existing game systems. Although, despite guarantee of a safe design, players one after another fell ill and were taken to the hospital. Or the whole debate with like when people watch The Hobbit in 48 frames instead of 24, they get sick and had to leave the movie theater. The development companies behind the initial dive VR MMOs all went bankrupt due to poor sales, bad reputations, and numerous lawsuits from afflicted players. A reviewer from the time had the following to say about these games. They managed to create the dream game. We weren't able to create the dream. Dive VR MMO games continued to be developed, but none were made that could be considered a success. That is, until Infinite Dendrogram was released. The lack of information about Infinite Dendrogram before its release was abnormal. It was kept secret the whole time, and on the day of release, the developers only made one announcement simultaneously across the global media networks. In it, they presented 4 key selling points for their game. First, 5 senses would be perfectly simulated. Second, even if there were 100 million players, all of them would play in the same game world on a single server. Third, players could choose how they'd view the game world, with options including realistic 3D, CG, and 2D anime. Fourth, time within the world would flow 3 times faster than in the real world. If I heard this, I would not believe this for a goddamn second. Even billion-dollar AAA game companies today can't even get the servers right. In response to the announcement, voices from around the world could be heard saying, "Is this really even possible? Just how much money and tech did they use to make this? Even for a case of misleading advertisement, isn't this going a bit too far?" Although the announcement had an impact, people found its content simply absurd. Out of everyone that saw the announcement, and this included non-gamers, 99.9998% didn't believe it and didn't buy the game. The remaining 0.0002% of people, however, said things like, "Seems like a lie, but what if it's true? I'll try it. I believe it." And they headed into the stores to buy the game. The necessary hardware costs around 10,000 yen, and was extraordinary. Some would even say reckless price. $100? That's nothing. Some would even say reckless pricing scheme. This helped lure in the customers, with some saying, "Well, even if it's a lie, it's only 10,000. Yeah, exactly. It's only 10,000 yen." So they bought it and started playing. And once they logged into the game, they all knew it was the real thing. Overcome with amazement at the game's realism, they would log out and look at their clocks, only to be astonished even more. The dreams they saw were all real. The dream game was now a reality. The day after release, amid the clamor set off around the world by posts and comments from those who played the game, the developers released another announcement. This time, the contents of the game were detailed. A man named Lewis Carroll, the lead developer for Infinite Dendrogram, presented the following broadcast announcement. The game system in Infinite Dendrogram has a special feature. Rather than relying on thousands of possible combinations of jobs and skills, this feature provides absolute and distinct uniqueness. This features the embryo. It will offer players truly infinite possibilities and unique customization. Embryos will respond to personal circumstances and evolve from among an infinity of patterns. These patterns will not merely be different colors and parts, but will even include unique skills, allowing them to be truly limitless in scope. This is what Infinite Dendrogram is all about. Yes, Infinite Dendrogram will provide you with a new world and your very own unique possibility. These words served as the last trigger needed to turn the game into a giant movie. Fast forward to today, March 16, 2045. Reggie Mukudori. Reggie Mukudori, was sitting on my heels with the game in front of me, a nervous expression on my face. Probably sounded like an exaggeration, but after playing, or rather, waiting a year and a half, I was finally going to be able to play Infinite Dendrogram. So of course I was nervous. It's been a long road. The game had been announced and released during the summer of my junior year in high school. At the same time, I had been motivating myself to do my best on my college entrance exams. I'm sure there had been other game-loving high schoolers in their junior or senior years who had been left in despair like I had been, thinking, why of all times did such an interesting looking game have to come out during my entrance exam years? I know that feel, Reggie. I know that feel all too well. However, I had now successfully made it into a college in the city and had taken the opportunity to start living on my own. I had finished moving yesterday and my parents, who had helped me, had already returned home. I can play games as much as I want now. I had headed to the store this morning as soon as it opened and purchased a copy of Infinite Dendrogram. For about half a year after its release, it had apparently been difficult to get hold of a copy, but a whole year and a half later, I was able to buy it without any trouble. My older brother, by the way, was one of those ones who had bought the game on release day. This whole time he had been calling me saying, "Hurry up, let's play Dendro together." I hadn't been sure if this made me feel bitter or simply jealous. But all those feelings end today. Let's do this. I braced myself and opened the box. Inside were a helmet time game system and a manual. According to the manual, in order to enter the game world, all you needed to do was put on the helmet and turn on the switch. There were other explanations regarding visuals and time as well, but amazing would be the only way I could describe them. Really? Just how in the world did they make this game? It seems to be 10, maybe 20 years ahead of current technology. However, now wasn't the time to be scared. Following the instructions and recommendations in the manual, put on the helmet, and lay on my bed facing the ceiling. I then turned on the game, and instantly, my vision went black. Hello and welcome! Before I knew it, I was no longer in my room, but in a space that appeared to be the study of a Western-style wooden building. The voice had come from a cat I have never seen before, which, sat in front of me in a seemingly well-made wooden rocking chair. A cat? I'm sorry for the intrusion. I was confused, but decided to respond with a greeting first. Yes, that's nice. I like people with proper manners. Cat spoke in fluent English, but with a slow drawl at the end of its sentences. Is this like the game's tutorial or something? That's right. You'll be sent into the game after you finish configuring various settings here. Oh, I'm Cheshire, Control AI number 13 for Infinite Dendrogram. Nice to meet you. Control AI. I see. No wonder it's able to use fuzzy logic in its responses. Control AIs are man-made cyber intelligences with entire modern supercomputers serving as their brains. Their primary uses, as the name suggests, are in control and management. It's said that just one of them can perfectly and at high speeds manage the databases and networks of a small country. If this one is number 13, does that mean there are 12 other game control AIs of equal ability involved in management? Nice to meet you too. Alright. First up is selecting the graphics. Samples of these will alternate, so choose which one you like the best, okay? After the Cheshire said this, the surrounding scenery completely changed. The study I turned into spacious area? What? The study then turned into a spacious area, a somewhat Middle Ages European townscape. There were many people walking about, and after a fixed period of time, their appearance would change. Actually, it wasn't their appearance, but rather the way I saw them was changing. They went from realistic appearances to CG, from CG to anime, and then back to realistic. Wait. How are you doing this? Imagery perceived by sight is processed by the brain, after all, so there's a way. And so the way you see can be changed like this. Which one will you go with? You can change it later by using an item. I'll leave it as is. I thought it would be better to see normally until I got used to the game, so that's what I did. Although I was interested in how it would feel to touch something that looked like it was from an anime. Okay, said Cheshire, and the scenery reverted back to the study. Next is your player name. What do you want your name to be in the game? I'll go with Ray Starling. This was a name I had often used in games before. It was simply a distorted version of my first name and an English translation of my last name, Mukudori. Okay, then I'll set it to that. Next, the settings for your appearance. After Cheshire said this, a featureless mannequin and a bunch of window screens appeared before me. These screens contained words as height and weight and bust, and the corresponding sliders as well as facial features. These are... Use those parts and sliders to make your own avatar for the game. Oh, you can also make it into an animal like me. Or even change your gender. No, I'm not so sure about changing my gender in a game this realistic. It's okay to take your time and think it over. We have 3 times the amount of time here in the real world. Oh yeah. There was that one time when someone repeatedly logged in and out and spent 1 month in Earth time making their avatar. That's a tremendous amount of effort and concentration, so I don't think I'll be able to go that far. Usually that's what I would do. Not a month, but I'd spend a few hours making the perfect avatar. You know, I don't want to play as an ugly character. Especially if it's a third-person game. It wasn't just because of the sheer numbers of sliders and parts, but the values you could set for each of them were way too exact. It was almost like they were telling me to make a real human face. For a beginner, that's way too difficult, I thought. And in that case, can I just use my real appearance as the default and make some changes to that? You can do that. Cheshire said and waved his tail. The mannequin turned into me. That would freak me. Now you just need to make some changes using this as your face. Thanks. It was fairly simple after this. I left most of the settings the same, but changed my hair color to blonde and my ethnicity as well, which altered my face. While I worked on this, I wondered about what my face would look like if I set it to anime or CG. Now I'd be able to see if I played without changing any of the settings, but no, it's better that I don't play online with my actual face. And like that, I finished creating my avatar after about 30 minutes or so. And finished. Okay. and then I'll hand over your starting item. Cheshire waved a petted paw in the air and the bag fell from empty space. This is your storage bar, also known as your inventory. The storage space inside it is from a different dimension. You can store items in here if they're yours, but on the flip side, you can't put any items in there that aren't. I see. It's a useful bag, but I guess that means it can't be used to commit crimes. Well, if it's an item that drops from someone you PK'd, or one that you stole with a steal skill, then it'll go in. I fell silent. Well, I don't know what to say to that. By the way, if a player's steal skill is high enough in level, they can steal an item from even inside this 4D pocket-like item bag. So be careful. Now, just how exactly am I supposed to be careful against a thief that's capable of stealing from the 4th dimension? This bag is for beginners, but there are also other types, such as ones that are tough to steal, small ones, and ones with lots of capacity. What is the capacity of this one, by the way? The size is about equal to 1 classroom. The weight is maybe around 1 ton in earth measurement. Oh yeah, that's plenty. It's apparently not enough if you're a merchant. They're likely to buy new ones. Oh, item bags will scatter their contents around if they get destroyed. So pay attention to their durability. I'll be careful. Next is this set of beginner equipment, Ray. What will you pick? Cheshire pulled a catalog from a bookshelf and showed it to me. In it were full sets of various types of armor. There was a typical Eastern and Western style armor, but in addition to these, there were traditional outfits from China, India, the Middle East, and South America. On the opposite end, there were even outfits that seemed sci-fi movie. Yeah, I'll go with this then. I said choosing a combination that consisted of innerwear, a jacket, jeans, and bandana. The look vaguely resembled the male protagonist from a masterpiece game of the last century. Innerwear, jacket, jeans, and that Red Dead Redemption 2? Arthur Morgan? I played retro games as well as modern games thanks to my brother, so although the looks was a bit behind the times, it matched my taste. Okay. What will you pick for your first weapon? I turned to a different page in the catalog. All kinds of weapons were listed, including a wooden sword, practice sword with a dull blade, a knife, a bow, a sling, and a staff. Yeah, I should choose something that matches my outfit. I'll go with a knife. Okay, so for your weapon and equipment... Wazam! It was hard to tell if Cheshire's voice was energetic or not, but as he said that, my appearance changed. My outfit switched to the one I had just chosen, and a knife now hung from my belt at the waist. Most impressive of all, my appearance has changed to mirror the avatar I'd made earlier. Wow, this is something else, huh? Yeah, I said as I looked at myself in the full-length mirror Cheshire had provided. It looks pretty good. Oh yes, that's right. Here's your starting money. Cheshire handed me 5 coins that appeared to be made out of silver. 5 silver coins is worth 5,000 lire. 1 rice ball costs about 10 lire, by the way. Well, then 1 lire would be about 10 yen. In that case, 5,000 lire is a lot of money. Is it okay to get this much in the beginning? Yep. Be sure to learn how to make money before it runs out, though. No, in other words, I probably won't get any more after you use it wisely. Well then, it's finally time to transfer your embryo. Oh, the thing in all the rumors. Embryos. Yeah, I'd heard they were the greatest feature in infinite Dendrogram. They offered true uniqueness and evolved in infinite ways based on the player. They were partners that exceeded the likes of items and equipment. My brother, who had already been playing the game, said, if this hadn't been a well-made dive VR MMO, but just a regular MMO instead, I'm sure it still would have been a hit as long as you had the embryo system. Do you need an explanation on embryo? Well, since you're offering, I guess I should listen to it. Probably best to hear the tutorials for unique systems after all. Okay. All players receive an embryo from the start. The only time they'll look the same is while they are in this 0th form. With the 1st form and beyond, they'll change in completely different ways based on their owner. Oh. As a gamer, I can't help but be fascinated by features that allow for something to be totally unique. Although the possibilities are infinite, there are some rough categories. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, this was because I'd done my best to block out any information before I started playing. I'd been worried that I might abandon my entrance exams if I found out about something about the game, as you would have made it harder to resist playing it. Yeah, I can understand. I used to do that. New game come out, I just never look into it, never read anything about it, so I wouldn't buy and ignore everything else I had to do. The only information I heard from my brother was that it's fun. It might have been the case that he'd also been worried about my exam, so he hadn't told me anything specific. The broad categories are type arms, a device that the players can equip as a weapon or armor. Type guardian, a monster type that protects the player. Type chariot, a vehicle type that the players can ride. Type castle, a building type that the players can reside in. Type territory, a barrier type that players can deploy. That's about it. Oh. I'm starting to get excited to see how my embryo will turn out. Also, besides these ones, there are rare and advanced categories that an embryo can evolve into. Too. There are even categories that are unique to the embryo. It'd be nice if you could get one. Wow. But if that's the case, there are bound to be players who keep resetting their character until they get a rare category. Ah, you can't remake your character in this game. Huh? Even if someone bought different hardware and played the game, that person would log in as the same character as the first time. Their embryo would also be the same. Because we keep our records on the sides of users' brainwave data. Now that freaks me out. That would absolutely freak me out when I never play this freaking game. Record our brainwave data. Yeah, that sounds kind of scary. Even if they were able to reset, it's all based on that person anyway, so I think their embryo would end up exactly the same. That's how it works. And while we're talking, your embryo finished transfer? Huh? Oh. I realized that on the back of my left hand was now embedded a faintly glowing oval gem. That's your embryo. It'll be stuck to your left hand during its 0th form, but it'll come off after it hatches and reaches its 1st form. Or in other words, like it's sort of like I'm incubating an egg. By the way, is there any chance it can break while it's an egg? That won't happen. Any damage an embryo receives while in its 0th form will be passed on to the player. See, so that means the embryo will be safe even if the player dies. But after they hatch, embryos can be damaged and break like anything else. They'll self-repair over time though. That's kind of like a living creature. By the way, after your embryo turns into its 1st form, a tattoo of a crest will appear where the egg was. It serves as a sort of identification for players in this world. Without it, you wouldn't be able to tell players apart from NPCs. That's so. But no, there's no way that he would mistake an NPC for a human. Right? Also, Crest has the ability to store your embryo, and you don't need it. You can keep your embryo in your left hand. You'll be together with it as long as you play this game. Please take care of it. Got it. Still not sure how my embryo will evolve, but that's fine. It all comes down to oneself anyway, so I guess it'll all work out on its own. Yeah, nice to meet you there, partner. Needless to say, there was no response from my embryo, but I got the feeling that it shined slightly. Lastly, please choose which nation to join. Cheshire laid out a map on the study's desk. It was an old scroll map. After it was unfurled, however, pillars of light rose up from the 7 locations on the map, and from within them I could see various towns. The nations with pillars of light are the ones you can join in the beginning. What you see in the pillars is the capital of each nation. Floating in letters of light around each of the pillars was the name and explanation of each nation. Surrounded by castle walls is a western fantasy town with a white limestone castle at its center. Kingdom of Alter, land of the night. Sakura petals danced the air in the city made of wood. A Japanese-style castle looms high above it. Tenshi, the land of blades. Subtle elegance hangs in the air of these mountains. A large river flows for all eternity through its valleys. Honghe, Empire, the land of the hermits. Black smoke rises from the countless factories and forms a cloud that blocks out the sky. On the ground is a modern-day city made of steel. The Drive Imperium, the land of machines. Bazaars nestle up to a giant oasis, surrounded by desert as far as the eye can see. Caldina, the commercial city-state union. Made from connecting countless large ships together, this man-made landmass floats in the middle of the open sea. Ranvoelia, the maritime nation. At the base of Yggdrasil, deep in the forest, elves, fairies, and demi-humans live in the secluded garden of flowers. Legendaria, homeland of the fairies. Oh. You'll see, this makes me want to visit every one of them. Tenchi has a similar feeling to the Azuchi Momoyama period. A Huanghe of a sense of Chinese fantasy. Drive seems like they'd have robots, and just walking through the bazaars of Caldina would feel like I was sightseeing. The seas of Gran Voloa call out to me to seek adventure. As for Legendaria, there's no need to even think of a reason, however. I'll go with the Kingdom of Altair. Okay, by the way, as a quick survey, what would your reason for choosing that be? You know, my brother is waiting for me. Oh, is that so? I'd called my brother from the store right after I'd bought the game, and he said, then I'll be waiting for you in the Kingdom of Altair's capital. Well, since he was waiting, I have no choice. But why did he choose the Kingdom of Altair anyway? I'm pretty sure he likes robots and warships, and why didn't he go with Drive, Imperium? Or Gran Valoa? Well, I guess I'll just have to ask him in person. There are events that allow you to change the nation you belong to, so don't feel so down about it. Yeah, thanks. I need to change gears. Kingdom of Altair seems kind of plain and normal, but it just might be a nice place. Okay then. I'm going to send you to the Kingdom of Altair's royal capital, Altia. Oh, just a second here. Chotto Matteo. What are the goals in this game? In all the games I'd played since I was a kid, even online ones, they had established goals such as defeating the evil god or demon king or, well, so I thought this game would be the same, but when I asked this to the cat, Anything. Anything. That's what I meant. Anything. You can become a hero or the Demon King, a king or a slave, a good person or an evil person. You can do something or you can do nothing. You can stay in infinite Dendrogram or leave it. It's all up to you. If it's possible, then you can do anything you want. Just like the embryo in your left hand, what's about to begin is infinite impossibility. His speech had morphed from the slow drawl, almost as if he was narrating something. Welcome to Infinite Dendrogram, we warmly welcome you. As soon as these words were spoken, the study disappeared from my surroundings. The desk, bookshelf, and even the Cheshire vanished, and I was left floating in the air. Huh? Below me was a familiar-looking world. I was looking down on the same continent I'd seen on the map just moments earlier. Before long, almost as if my body was being sucked down toward one point on the continent, the kingdom of Altar, I started to fall at a great speed, and just like that, I set foot into the world of Infinite Dendrogram. In front of the south gate, royal capital Altea, kingdom of Altar, Ray Starling. I thought I was gonna die. My heart was pounding after being suddenly dropped from the sky, and I forced in breaths to help keep myself calm. The feeling of the fall still remaining with me. The sight of scenery changing vividly before me at high speed. The sound of my body scraping against the air as I fell. The chill in the air whipping around me. The smell of wind I have never smelt before. The taste of dirt from the ground. I had fallen over in a daze. Confused at how normally my landing had been. There hadn't been any pain. It was apparently turned off by default, but all 5 of my other senses had perceived this just as they would the real one. This is oh. True Dive VR MMO. I finally had a sense that the dream game had been reality. I did think the theatrics had been a bit over the top, but I had now made my way into the world of Infinite Dendrogram. I looked about my surroundings and saw a large gate behind me. It was encompassed by white castle walls that stretched up as far as I could see. But there were also soldiers clad in Western-style armor serving as gatekeepers. This gate is one of the places I saw in Cheshire's room. So it's probably safe to say this is Altea, the kingdom of Altar's royal capital. The gate was open leading into the town, and for a while now carriages and people had been coming and going. Seems I can pass through just... It was my first time I timidly, or more accurately, suspiciously, passed through the gate and was able to enter the town without any trouble. Right. Looks like they don't do inspections for people entering or leaving Altea. That's stupid. Since I'd safely made it into town, all that remained was to head to where I was supposed to meet my brother. If I remember correctly, he set a large water fountain in the capital's central street. Did say I could reach it by heading straight from the entrance, but I'll take a look just in case. I recited the words main menu in my mind, and just like it was described in the manual, a game window appeared in front of me. The window was split into 2. On the right side was my name and a simplified view of my stats, while on the left side was a list of various menu commands. I glanced over my stats and saw that my current level was 0. Jobs and Infinite Dendrogram supposedly each had their own level, and since I was currently jobless, my level was stuck at 0. Map. Here it is. Found what I was looking for in the menu and opened it up. A new window appeared displaying a map of the royal capital Altea. Normally a map had to be filled in by traveling around or by buying maps, however, the manual explained that a player's starting area, the capital of the nation they joined, and its surroundings. Got input in the map from the start. This is useful. I see. The city of Altia was circular in shape and surrounded by castle walls. These walls had a gate at each of the 4 cardinal points, and stretching out from each of them was a large stone-paved road leading to the center of the city. The roads would have intersected into a cross if they had continued, however, this was not the case. At the center of the royal capital was another ring of castle walls, and inside was the area of nobility. Special permission was required to enter this area, and at its center was the royal castle. Well, probably won't have any need to go there for a while. The central street we were supposed to meet at was the one running from the south gate to the nobility area. The gate I had just passed through, by the way, was the south gate. So if I simply head straight, I should be able to reach the water fountain. I was walking while looking at my map and thinking this when... Huh? Somehow I'd locked eyes with the woman I didn't know. She had run out from a side alley, and since I'd been engrossed in my map, I hadn't noticed until she was right upon me. I reacted late and wasn't able to avoid her, causing us to collide. As a result, I was flung more than 15 meters away? Gah! That felt like it caused some serious damage. As a matter of fact, the window screen I still had open showed that I'd lost 80% of my HP. In addition to this, it appears I have some broken bones. The status effects broken left leg and broken right leg. Broken left arm and broken right leg were now being displayed. Just one collision with the lady, I received such near-fatal wounds as these? Come on, just how shockingly frail am I? Are you alright? The woman that ran into me rushed over to my side with a pale look on her face. She had soft hair and kind facial features and was wearing white metal armor that looked absurdly heavy. I wouldn't be surprised if that weighed 100 kilos. I'm okay, it was no big deal. However, my body was still numb from the damage and I couldn't properly move my tongue. I'm so sorry. Force heal. Her hand instantly glowed white and particles of light fell from it onto my body. My HP was completely healed and the status effects from my broken bones were also gone. Oh. That must have been healing magic. It was a common occurrence in video games to nearly die and then get completely healed, but this was what it was like to actually experience it. It's kind of scary. I'm terribly sorry. This is all because I wasn't paying attention to what's in front of me while running. No. I was also looking away. By the way, are you okay? We collided and thus forced to give me near-fatal wounds, so I was worried that she might have been injured as well, but she was completely unharmed. She appears to be a really high-level player, and the equipment she was wearing looked to be of high grade as well. Her stats then would most likely be high too. So that's why our collision ended up the way it did. I'm fine, but I caused you to get such a terrible injury. Oh, no, you're kind enough to heal me, so I'll be just fine. I couldn't help but speak politely on top of that. I was fairly sure my voice was shaking. The damage from when we had collided had caused me to lose my nerve. But, by the way, it looked like you were in quite the hurry. Is there something wrong? When I asked her this, the woman suddenly appeared to have remembered something. Well, actually, my little sister left the house, and I was in the middle of searching for her. Your sister? Yes, this is her in this picture. Have you seen her anywhere? Asking this, she took out a picture and showed it to me. Although this world has a fantasy setting, it would appear that pictures are readily available. In the picture was a cute little girl. She looked like a younger version of the woman in front of me, but with straight hair instead of wavy. Sister, huh? Like me and my brother, she must be playing this game together with her sister. I could only stay silent as she looked at me in desperation. I felt bad for her, but I hadn't seen her sister. I'm sorry, I just started recently. I just entered this town through the gate a moment ago. Is that so? And she might already be inside. This is my contact information. If you happen to see my sister anywhere, please contact me. Also, I'm really sorry for running into you. She took out a piece of paper, wrote something on it, and then handed it to me. There's no need to apologize, so please go search for your sister. Thank you. Well then, goodbye. She said and darted off, leaving me with a memo in my hand. Following was written on it. Liliana Grandria, Knights of the Royal Guard Vice Commander. Kingdom of Altar. Huh? Characters I've never seen before were being translated into Japanese in my head. More shocking than that, however, was the rest of the memo. The quest: search for Milian Gandria, difficulty level 5. Has started. Please see the quest screen for further details. I was at a loss for words. Yeah. Though she looked like a real human to me, this meant that she wasn't actually a player, but instead, she was an NPC? And just like that, I realized just how unbelievably realistic Infinite Dendrogram was. What was even realistic about that? It sounded like an average interaction with an NPC character in like Skyrim or something. Shortly after I met Liliana and received my first quest, I arrived at a large water fountain on the central street where I was to meet my brother. On the way there, I had a look at the map information, and apparently difficulty level 5 quests were supposed to be taken by a party of advanced players. So, without a doubt, it wasn't something I could partake in. Why would a quest like this be given to a beginner anyway? I should just ask Aniki about it for now. Thinking about this, I had hurried my way to the water fountain, and the scene that greeted me left me speechless. There was a nearly 2-meter tall bear costume with a sign reading, "Welcome, little brother," parked in front of the water fountain. What in the world is that? There's no way. No. But there's no way. Oh, but then again, this is where we're supposed to meet. There likely aren't that many people out there waiting for their younger brother. You wouldn't know my character name, and it's not like my real one. So it makes sense to write little brother on the sign. I get that part, but why the costume? Gonna take some guts to talk to that thing. For a little while now, children had been gathering around the bear. I couldn't tell if they were NPCs or players, but they seemed to be very attached to the bear. They were climbing onto its head and lap as well, hanging from its arms. I wasn't getting anywhere at this rate, so I steeled my nerves and decided to talk to it. Excuse me, I would like to ask you something. That's fucking Haseo. That's definitely Dot Hack. Yeah, he looks like Haseo. Yes, just bear with me for a moment. What, was that a pun? Well, I get that you're a bear, but still. Are you Shuichi Mukodori? Yeah, is that you, Aniki? Indeed it is. Hey, Reggie. I so wanted to be wrong. Glad we were able to meet up. The bear, I mean, my brother, Shuichi Mukodori, stood up and said, "Shall we go then?" He then pulled out some candy from his storage bag, or rather, a pocket attached to his stomach, and passed them out to the children gathered around him. Is he pretending to be that famous character? In that case, he should be a cat. Or at least a raccoon. Yay! Thanks, Mr. Bear! The children received their candy and then headed off in cheerful spirits. Before long, only my brother and I were left remaining. I guess first up should be introductions. My name is Shoe Starling. I'm Ray Starling. Like I thought we did end up with the same name, huh? Since it was so easy to use the English translations of our last names, Mokodori. Whenever someone in my family made a character, 8 out of 10 times we'd end up with the name Starling. So, what should we do? It looks like your embryo hasn't hatched yet. So should I show you around the town? While we're at it, if you want to pick up some equipment, I can lend you some money at no interest. No interest? That's pretty based. Sounds like a good brother. Oh, well, actually, I explained to him about the quest I had just received. Really? Quest from Liliana? I've never received that one before. Really, though? But why would I get a quest like this when I'm only level? Well, that's because the world is realistic. A lot of quests are triggered by coincidence. Incidents don't occur in order to create a quest. Quests arise when there happens to be an incident. There are many quests you won't be able to trigger intentionally, and there'll be a lot of cases where you end up going on one you didn't intend to. Well, consider it a good baptism. You're able to get a sense for how realistic the people in this world are, right? Yeah. It was so realistic, in fact, I'm a bit suspicious as to whether I'm talking to the real you or just an NPC pretending to be you. Of course it's me, you better believe it. Okay, stop with the bear stuff. It made me feel weird because I knew the person inside and I could picture him. Ha 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 ha, by the way, Liliana is a contender for the first or second most popular person in this kingdom. She even has a fan club made of both players and tie-ins. Oh, so there's a what? What's a tie-in? A person that isn't a player. Well, you can just think of it as a general term for NPCs. Interesting, so that means even NPCs participate in fan clubs. According to the developers, their personalities and ability to think are on the same level of humans. So that kind of thing is the bare minimum of their capabilities. Really, this game is so sophisticated, it's almost alarming. By the way, did it say anywhere in the quest information about where to search? No, nothing. They're telling me to search for someone without any hints. That's why I don't know where or how I should even start. Although, to be accurate, this memo would count as a hint. You hand me that memo for a sec? Here you go. My brother took the memo and instead of reading its content, he flipped it over and showed its back to me. Dear sister, the shops were all out of remberries, so I'm going to go get some. I'm bringing bug repellent incense, but I'll be okay. Please look forward to it and wait for me. From Ilya. Isn't this... She must have been in a real hurry. She wrote her contact information on the back of a memo her sister left and gave it to you. I didn't notice it either. Since the memo had been written on parchment paper, I hadn't been able to see through it. Oh, what are these remberries? Remberries are one of the highest grade specialties from around here. Just think of them as really delicious fruit. Go get must mean that she went off to go search for some. Millian seems to be quite the proactive kid. There are 2 places around here where you can get remberries. The first is an orchard within the capital. You can harvest there if you pay the fee of 5,000 lire per basket. Isn't that the entire amount you get at the beginning of the game? That's expensive. The other one is just outside the south gate. It's called Old Reef Orchard. Old Reef Orchard? Some things happened and insect-type monsters had taken up living there, so it's an abandoned orchard. Even now, there are a lot of fruit trees growing wild there, but at the same time, it's become a nest for monsters. So the stuff about bug repellent incense must mean... Probably so. That's way too proactive. Go to the sacred orchard. 5,000 lire is asking a bit too much from a child. Even the market value of 50 lire would be tough. But still, that doesn't mean Old Reeve Orchard, by the way, is a place players usually mistake for being beginner friendly due to how close it is to the starting point. However, it's a dungeon where beginners enter and then get killed right off the bat. It's also known as the newbie killer. This couldn't be any worse. I just realized this now, but when I had met Liliana, she probably had headed toward the old orchard. When Liliana had said, then she might already be inside. She must have been convinced that Milian had already entered the orchard because I had seen her passing through the south gate. I hadn't seen her passing through the south gate. Well, in any case, it'd be best to clear this one quickly. It's probably the best where you'll fail if time elapses. Huh? I told you, right? In this world, incidents are realistic and occur spontaneously. That's why there are no guarantees that things will be fine until the player clears the quest, unlike in older games. Well, yeah, but let me tell you this from my experience as one of the starting players. There have been examples in the past of people dying, a sage revered as a hero, the commander of the knights, and even the king of this nation. They all died. I didn't know what to say. Despite that, the world of infinite Dendrogram carries on without a hitch. That's because it's real. Began to imagine. What if the girl in the picture gets attacked by monsters and tragically dies? Imagining gave me an unpleasant feeling. Thinking about Liliana caused those feelings to sink even further. I know that they're NPCs, but that leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Wouldn't it? So let's clear it and shoot for a happy ending, huh? I couldn't see my brother's face because of the bear costume, but I had the feeling he was smiling on the inside. Thus, my brother and my newbie self formed a party, and we set off to tackle my first quest. Quest to clear was Search for Milian Grandria. The difficulty level? 5. The location was a trap dungeon, newbie killer, Old Reeve Orchard. The goal was a happy ending. Well, start quest. Chapter 1. Nemesis. By the way, have you paused to look at your starting stats yet? My brother asked me as we headed towards Old Reeve Orchard. Come to think of it, not yet, I realized. Status information... Here it is. I clicked on the option and the new window appeared displaying my stats. My level was of course 0, and I currently had no job equipped. It seemed multiple jobs could be equipped at once, and so in addition to the level for each job, there was also a total level. My level for both was still, of course, 0. The other stats displayed were HP, MP, SP, Strength, Endurance, Dexterity, Agility, and Luck. Each of them was fairly low, other than having 98 HP and 23 SP. The rest were all below 20. It's no wisdom or intelligence stat, really. I didn't have anything to compare with them with, but those stats were probably weak. Then again, I guess there's no way a newbie at level 0 would be strong. So I'll be going into this dungeon called the Newbie Killer at level 0, won't I? You'll barely make it past 0 if you don't want to equip a job. Do you want to get one before we go? No. It doesn't look like we have time. I'll go like this. It'd be unbearable if that girl in the picture were to die while we were doing that. The most important thing right now is speed. My brother and I talked as we ran. Can I ask you a few things? I guess I can bear that. I didn't see a stat for int, so what factors into magic strength? There's strength in this game, right? But the island did use healing magic after all. It's based on your max MP and the level of magic skill. Also the total amount of MP you pour into it. And there is no internet in this game, by the way. Your intelligence is the bare basics. Yourself, after all. Well, that makes sense, I thought. That makes sense. I wouldn't really get what it meant if you told me my intelligence went up. Oh, and as for the skills that use SP, their strength isn't based on your SP, but on various other related stats. Well, those various stats will receive adjustments from your embryo, so the variation will be infinite. That sounds complicated. If you bear with it, I'm sure it'll go fine. How things turn out will be a positive reflection of your individuality. Really getting into those bear puns, isn't he? Oh yeah, let me give you some accessories I have. Bro Bear Aniki handed me some items from his bag. When I looked at them, these items included 10 healing potions that could easily heal me to max health, 1 life-saving brooch, and 4 dragon scale ward accessories. The life-saving brooch bears the brunt of your fatal damage, but it has a 10% chance of breaking. How many times this is checked is determined by the amount of damage divided by your HP. The dragon scale ward will reduce incoming damage by 90%, but it'll break after 1 use. I see. They appear to be throwaway accessories, but this'll definitely help. This game has level and stat restrictions for equipment, so I'll beef you up with these accessories since they don't have any level restrictions. There are 5 inventory slots for equipping accessories, so they'll all fit perfectly. Thanks, Aniki. Hey, that reminds me. What's the death penalty in this game? The death penalty. It was a feature found in many online games. To put it simply, it was some sort of demerit for a character that died. They could lose levels, for example, or have their status lowered for a period of time. Since he was trying to help avoid me dying, this game must have some sort of death penalty, I thought. This was why I wanted to ask him what the penalty was, but a 24-hour login ban. The answer I received was unexpected. What? If you die in this game, you won't be able to log in for 24 hours of real time, or 72 hours in the game world. Are they out of their minds? I can't believe there's a game that won't let you play it as a death penalty. That's a pretty good one. I like that. More games should have that. The frightening thing about this penalty is that you can't play the game. It's that 3 days will pass by in infinite Dendrogram without you. So for example, if you're in the middle of a quest like we are, you'll have to abandon the quest for 3 days. When you're in a world as realistic as this one, that's what's so scary. What would happen if Aniki Bear and I were to leave the quest alone for 3 days? Well, the answer to that was obvious. I'll tag along and try not to die. I'm not sure how useful I'll be at level 0, though. Or more like I won't be of any use at all. By the way, like I mentioned earlier, Old Reeve Orchid is a trap dungeon known as the Newbie Killer. Innocent noobs starting Dendro. Without any prior knowledge, enter the dungeon saying, "Yay, I'm gonna go on an adventure nearby." And then it's game over and they get their bare butts exposed and back to the extreme. They get insta-killed and can't log in for a whole day. Like a trauma-generating machine. However, it's strange. Why is the difficulty level 5? Based on the levels of the monsters in the dungeon, it's too high. As I listened to my brother mutter this, we passed through the south gate at the royal capital Altia. The Orchid was located about 10 minutes running distance from the south gate. It was surrounded by a metal fence and a worn-out sign at the entrance read, "Welcome to Reeve Orchard." The place, however, seemed long abandoned. Plants grew wild, and the color on the sign had faded. Well then, time to storm in, but my brother stopped in front of the entrance to the old Reeve Orchard, which was now a den of insect monsters. Right after that, a new window appeared before me. Party request from Shoe Styling. Will you join this party? Yes. No. It'll be easier to cover for you if I can constantly track your status. Okay, I got it. I clicked yes on the window, and as soon as I did, a screen opened up showing the status of our party. My brother's name had been added to it as well. There's space on the party screen for 4 more players, so this game must have a maximum party limit of 6. That's a lot. Displayed along with my brother's name were also his stats. However, what's going on with this? On my brother's status screen, everything other than his name was blacked out, including his level and HP. Ah, that's the concealing ability of this suit. If there's a difference in level between me and an enemy or ally, they can't bear witness to my stats. What kind of ability is that? That makes it way harder to help with support magic. Not that I have any, but... Oh, that reminds me. Hey, Aniki, I didn't get a chance to ask you this because of the quest, but why are you wearing a bear costume? My brother rubbed his eyes of his costume with his bare fingers. It's a story that'll leave both of us in tears. We're kind of busy, so hurry up and answer my question. Oh, my little brother's looking at me so coldly. He grumbled to himself before gradually starting to speak. Oh, so you know how there's a part where you create your character, right? Yeah. It was a pain to make it from scratch, so I tried to do it using myself as the base. Well, so did I. Well, I made a bit of a mistake. A mistake? What did you do? I accidentally confirmed it without making any changes. Ugh, oh boy. Oh boy. So, in other words, inside the suit was my brother's actual face and appearance. Playing an online game with your actual face was a risky thing to do. It was especially true in my brother's case. Yeah, with that you'd have no choice but to or something. By the way, the reason I chose this kingdom is because I saw a store in the capital selling costumes. Oh, so that's why you didn't go somewhere that was more along your tastes. Rife. Granvaloa. By the way, drastic times call for drastic measures. Oh, and by the way, the costume number 1 costs 4,980 lire. That's almost the entire starting amount! Just how exactly did he get by in the beginning? On top of that, it was a gag item with no defense. I was one of the first players, so there was no information available, really. Not a hopeless start. It's been a path full of hardship until I got a hold of this costume. Oh, so what abilities does this one have? Take a look. Ultimate Suit Series Hind Bear. Ancient Legendary Armor. Defense plus 903. Very high. Skills. Disguise. Completely hides your stats from anyone with a total level of 100 less than yours. Built-in AC. A built-in AC. I assume that means armor class. Designed for any environment. Oh, no, AC. Actual air conditioning. Okay. The perfect temperature, anytime, any place. Power Assist supports movement with muscle rotors. Strength plus 903. Bulletproof made, able to withstand even crossfire. Reduces damage from physical range attacks by 903. Knife proof made. Feels safe even on the days with a lot of assassins. Reduces damage from physical close range attacks by 903. Utility bare hands. Mysteriously, these hands can properly grab things and they can be used quite skillfully. Increased damage to fish and insect monsters. along with an unknown skill and an unknown description. What's with this overly high-spec gag item? What's plus 903 very high supposed to mean? Is it actually as high as that implies, though? Wait, what level are you anyway, Honeykey Bear? Can't see his stats at all right now. So at the very least, his total level should be over 100, but that's a buried secret. Man, that's irritating. Man, that's irritating. Alright then. That's enough of your comedy skit for now. Let's go save the girl. About 90% of the material came from you. I fucked that up. About 90% of the material came from you, Aniki Bear, but I agree, let's go. We made our way into Oldweeb Orchard. Once inside, we followed a path of weeds and broken signs. On one of the signs was written, 500 metals to Remberry Field. I take it that means 500 meters? Pretty easy to understand, isn't it? Have you noticed? The sound, right? I've been hearing it for a while now. In the direction the sign pointed in, I could hear clashing sounds and the cries of something inhuman. Didn't see anything due to all the plants in the way. However, Liliana, who had entered the dungeon ahead of us, was there, without a doubt, fighting something. That was when I realized the sound of battle could only be heard from the Remberry Field, while everywhere else was quiet. Are there no other players here? There are a lot of people with trauma from this dungeon. On top of that, the drop items and materials you can gather at these levels aren't all that great either. Also, the insect attacks in swarms, so a lot of them can cause poison or paralyze, so an encounter for status effects is a must. I guess that's what you'd call an unpopular hunting ground. Well, thanks to that, it does make it easier for me to fight. Balder, activate in second form. Yokai. An electronic voice I hadn't heard before answered him. The back of my brother's left hand began to glow through his costume, and then suddenly something flew out from it. The bear's silhouette now had the following strange additions to it. A ring of gun barrels, a motorized mechanism for quick reloading, an ammunition belt, and a giant drum-like magazine. Right there before me was a heavy firearm known as the Gatling gun. Sick. Isn't this game supposed to be primarily fantasy-based? As I looked at my brother's embryo, which was likely a type arms, couldn't help but ask this question. I envisioned type arms to be more, like a demon sword, or a demon spear. Something like a Gatling gun allowed? The machine Imperium drive also exists in the world, so my embryo is just fine. Aniki Bear laughed as he hoisted the drum magazine on his back and lifted the barrel of the Gatling gun under his right arm. As I stared, somewhat shocked at this real sight of him. Bee and anti-insects had begun to swarm around us. Alright then, let's barrick our way through to the Remberry Field. Brobear said as he readied his Gatling gun and fired away. Yeah! In the next instant, the sound of explosions roared around us. The insect monsters were smashed to pieces and their bodily fluids were scattered all around. The gun barrel spun, and each bullet it spit out added to the number of corpses. As soon as the monsters fell to the ground, they turned into specks of light and disappeared. It was a one-sided killing spree. Aniki Bear mowed down the monsters faster than they could disappear. In under a minute, a few thousand empty cartridges had been ejected from the Gatling gun. Normally there would be no way he could hold and fire something that heavy-looking, however. Based on what he had showed me earlier, his costume was essentially a power suit. His strength is at least 90 times higher than mine, so it might be why it's possible. Even so, it's bizarre for him to be shooting while walking. The reason he didn't run out of ammo while firing at that pace was probably because his Gatling gun was an embryo. It was likely using some sort of mysterious power. Seeing him carrying a Gatling gun and rapidly fire like that, almost like one of those. It's almost like that one scene from that old famous movie. He's talking about Terminator 2. I know he is. I think it was the second film in that series about cyborgs, and that most well-known title of an actor who later became a state governor. Yeah, he knows. He knows about Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's awesome. Well, given that it's a bear costume doing it and not a muscle-bulging macho man actor, it'll probably turn into a C-class movie. In any case, it really doesn't look like I'll be of any use. If I were to carelessly get out in front, I would probably end up like Swiss cheese in an instant. Oh, you can ignore the dropped items. I want you to stick right behind me. He was referring to the dropped items that had remained behind after the monster disappeared. Plots like this really are like a game. Gotcha. Yeah, isn't this situation kind of like... It was a situation found in a lot of games. A low-level player would get help in the beginning from a high-level character and proceed through the game. This character would be really powerful and helpful, but would usually end up dying. The death would sometimes be used to close out the opening act. I think it is. That brings back memories. Wait. I'd be the one that dies in that scenario. It was hard to tell if we were in battle, working, or doing a comedy skit, but we traversed the 500 meters and arrived at our Rimbury field. Who's there? You're... As expected, Liliana was engaging in battle at the Rimbury field with a swarm of insect monsters. She was taking on a countless number of them while protecting her younger sister behind her. Yes! We made it! The bear cavalry... No horses. Has arrived. He fired his Gatling gun around in grand style. The insects that had been encircling Liliana started to fall at an incredible rate. I was worried he might hit the two of them, but he handled his Gatling gun skillfully. And there wasn't even a ricochet. He easily wiped out the encirclement of insects and we made it safely over to the two sisters. Are you alright? I asked, repeating back the same words Liliana had said to me earlier. You're the one from before. Why are you here? She looked at me in surprise. She's reacting as if she just realized who I was. Well then, she said, You're a moment ago? That was directed at my brother? And you as well. Really, why? We came to help, my little brother was saying. I can't leave them alone. I'm going to rescue her, no matter what. So I'd figure I'd bear with him. I didn't say that. I don't recall saying anything that embarrassing. Your little brother. So that's why. Liliana whispered to herself as if she had understood something. The mood here. I think Liliana and my brother just might know each other. Liliana turned to me and bowed deeply. Thank you very much. If you two hadn't come, I wouldn't have been able to protect my sister, Milia. Oh no, all I did was watch from behind. Still, please let me thank you. Even though I caused you trouble, you brought reinforcements to come save me. I won't forget this kind deed. Her words went beyond making me feel embarrassed. They made me feel a sense of guilt. The quest had been automatically accepted for me, and all I had done was stick safely behind my brother like a parasite. That guilt caused me to avert my gaze from Liliana, and I did. Landed on her sister Milianne. Oh, she's as cute in the picture, no. What? A lolly? Lolicon? No, I'm not. Sniffles. Sniffles. Milianne was crying. Well, yeah, she should be, I thought. She was surrounded by a bunch of insect monsters and her life was even in danger. Of course she's crying. However, given that there were still about 5 fruits, more likely the rainberries, inside the basket she was holding. She really had her stuff together. Anyway, let's get out of here. It'll be dangerous if more monsters come. Very well, cried Liliana, and change occurred on my menu screen. NPCs have joined your party. Liliana Gandria has joined, and Melian Gandria has joined. Ah, NPCs can join parties too, and their stats are... Melian's stats were lower than mine, were at level 0. Liliana's stats, however, were very high. Her paladin level was 60, and her total level was 210. She even had over 5,000 HP. Well, then again, she is the Vice Commander of the Knights of the Royal Guard, which means she's ranked 2nd out of all the knights in this kingdom. So it shouldn't be a surprise she's this strong. I then noticed that Bro Bear, or rather Aniki Bear, was silent and his expression was serious. I couldn't actually see it directly, but given how long I had known him, I could tell from the mood. Ray, the quest still hasn't completed, has it? Yeah, it hasn't changed at all. I see. Aniki Bear readied his Gatling gun and looked around our surroundings. He appeared far more serious than when he had been mowing down insects earlier. Aniki? Aniki. Ray, the difficulty levels of quests are calculated individually by the control AIs in charge of them. The control AIs take into account information about the surrounding environment and people related to the quest. What? So the difficulties are calculated with information on the environment and related people. Control AIs really are impressive to be able to do that for every quest, but what does that have to do with anything? Oh, is it going to be like because of the fucking level 1000 or whatever, if I fucking level, or whatever the brother's level is there? You have to make the quest harder. So I was thinking the difficulty for this quest was high due to a time limit. My brother started to push his thoughts into words bit by bit. I thought we cleared it easily because I'm suited for fighting against large numbers, but... His gaze fell to one spot on the ground. We met up with Liliana and eliminated the swarm of insects, and yet... quest still hasn't completed. In other words, this quest has a difficulty of 5 even after taking into account that Liliana's total level is 210. Right after he said this, the ground where he was looking exploded. Something huge and long flew out from it. It was a giant centipede, almost 30 meters long. Clink. The giant centipede had large stag-like beetle jaws, growing on its face in all 4 directions. Its skin was also covered in reptile-like scales. The bullet my brother had swiftly fired at it had been easily repelled. It was completely different from the bugs my brother had been trampling over earlier. Even a beginner like me could tell. This thing is strong. I could hear Liliana's shocked voice beside me. A demi-dragon worm! Yeah! The ground exploded again, and another demi-dragon worm appeared. Demi-dragon class monster, huh? Ah, I get it now. If we need to protect this girl while facing off against several of these, then I can see why it has this difficulty rating, even with some help. But even so... His voice sounded cheerful, almost as if his worry had disappeared. I, on the other hand, was intimidated by the 2 monsters and was at a loss for words. If you're up against me, that amount just isn't going to cut it. My brother then lifted up both his arms and said, It'd be fine to just smash them to pieces, but this is a good opportunity. Baldur, activate your 4th form. But just then, 4 more demi-dragon worms appeared from the ground in each direction, trapping my brother. Hey, wait, I can barely move right now, he protested, but really though, there are still... The newly appeared demi-dragon worms locked their jaws onto my brother and disappeared into the ground. Huh? couldn't process what I had just seen. Ah, gasped Liliana as she bit her lip at the unexpected turn of events. I checked the party's status, but my brother's stats were still blacked out. I couldn't tell if he was alive or dead. Aniki, sorry for triggering a flag, but isn't this a bit sudden? Aniki, don't you think this is a bit sudden? With my brother missing, the remaining 2 demi-dragon worms drew towards us. I was terrified. In an instant, I had been cast from the safety zone behind my brother into danger. The biggest animal I had ever seen in my life was an elephant. Now monsters far larger than that were bearing down toward me with cold hostility. Even if I knew this was a game, my legs shook. There's something I wish to ask of you, Liliana said to me. What is it? I'll hold them back. Both, if possible. During that time, could you please take my sisters to safety? What? There are 2 of them. Even for Liliana by herself, that'd be... No, I'm thinking wrong. At level 0, I wouldn't be of any help to her. In fact, I'd just get in her way if I stayed behind. That would put not only me, but Milian in danger as well. Alright. I pulled Miliana's hand and started running. Behind us, the battle between Liliana and the demi-dragon worms commenced. The path where my brother had just recently mowed down enemies with his Gatling gun was clear of monsters. We can make it to the next exit in one go like this, I thought. I have to say though, I only realized this after running desperately, but this game also incorporates the concept of fatigue. On top of that, my legs were shaking, and the game was kind enough to display the high status effect fear. Infinite Dendrograms, absolute realism, even went so far as to convey the terror of a giant creature. Even so, I ran, making sure that I never let go of Milian's hand. Following behind me... Oh, that's her breath. Following behind me, Milian also ran in earnest. Her face was full of dread. Both scared, we continued to run. By the way, said to Milian, it was an attempt to help ease our worries. Even if for a bit, I wasn't sure myself just exactly whose mind I was trying to put at ease, though. Milian! Milia! So why did you come all the way here to get remberries? I asked her this to half out of curiosity, and the other half was for distraction. Today is my sister's birthday. She loves remberry cake, so I could make it for her. I see. Naruhodo. But there weren't any for sale at the shop, so I didn't know what to do. Then, a guy with glasses told me, if you have this incense, you can go get some from the orchard outside. So this is that Four Eyes' fault? I don't know what he was thinking telling her that, but I'd like to punch that idiot for sending a kid into a dangerous place. Sister came to get me, but the effects of the incense wore off. She had covered half the distance while we were talking. Just the other half left, I thought. At this rate, we'll make it the rest of the way. Just then I heard a roar and felt the ground tremble behind me. I made the decision on the spur of the moment. I picked up Milian and jumped to the side. In the next instant, a demi-dragon worm burst from the ground and chomped its jaws. Chomped its jaws as it passed through the area where we had been running. She couldn't have. An unpleasant thought compelled me to turn around, but I could still hear the sounds of battle. Liliana was still fighting. Could this be one of 2? And it left to chase after us? Or maybe it's one of the ones that dragged my on a key on the ground. The real issue is that no matter which one it is, I don't have a way of fighting back. My stats were still on their default levels, and the embryo on my left hand still hadn't hatched. Even if it did hatch now, I can't imagine a newly hatched embryo would be able to stand up against an enemy that my brother's Gatling gun didn't work against. My heart pounded in terror and unease, while a cold sweat broke out from my forehead and down my back. I thought I might die just from how realistic it felt. The demon dragon worm exposed its long body from the ground and roared, not in an attempt to intimidate us, but rather in triumphant laughter. The end of the road, huh? The newbie killer. Old Reeve Orchard. Looks like I'll experience my first death here. What? Millian was crying in my arms. She's an NPC. A Tian. Unlike me, if she dies, she won't come back. The thought left me unsettled. Anaki said that even the king died. I'm sure there aren't any special circumstances just for her in this world. She'll die just like anybody else. Like I said, I'd leave a bad taste in my mouth. Took off the life-saving brooch and equipped it to Millian. Milia, can you run to the entrance from here by yourself? What? She looked up at me with unease. I have to go and beat up this damn centipede a bit. Right after I said this, the demi-dragon worm charged at us. I pushed Millian away, and like getting hit by a truck, I flew into the air. It was a powerful impact, even worse than when I had collided with Liliana back in town. However, the damage had been 93. Fire rating NP was 5. I'm still alive. One of the 4 dragon scale wards I had equipped had broken and disappeared. I'd survived thanks to its ability to reduce the damage of the attack by 90%. I forced my numb body to move, drank a healing potion from the item menu. My MP was fully restored. I can still move. As I turned around, I saw that Millian was still standing there. Go! I'll take care of this guy. It was a big lie. There was nothing I could do. However, I could at least buy some time. If she could run away during that time, that was all that mattered. Millian stood up and ran for the exit. If she can get to the exit and return to the field, there should be other players and Tians there. This is for the best. And then I was immediately flung into the air again. It was my second cycle of near death. Dragon scale breaking, healing with a potion, and then recovering. If you include the death penalty, I can take another 3 of your hits, you damn centipede. The third attack came, but this time I avoided it. Even at this default stats, if I move, I can dodge it. However, I was caught by its tail and knocked aside. The damage was nearly the same. My HP was dangerously low and another dragon scale broke. Damn it. Only one more left. Millian still had made it to the exit. At the very least, I have to bide my time until then. I told myself as I thought this, a demi-dragon worm charged its attack. It changed its focus of attack. It twisted its large body around and laid its sight on Millian. Hey, you bastard, where are you looking at? It ignored me and charged after her. Wait! Wait. I chased after it, but I couldn't catch up with it at my speed. The large demi-dragon worm struck Millian, sending her small body floating upward into the air like a leaf. The basket she had been holding so dearly was forced from her hand and tumbled to the ground. Ah! I dived head first and caught her falling body. There was a large impact as I caught her. The last dragon scale shattered. That's not the real issue right now. I was frightened to do it, but I looked at Million's face. A pain different from physical pain was stinging my heart. She was unconscious but unhurt. In exchange, the life-saving brooch I had placed on her had shattered. Apparently it works even with Cryptomillion, I thought. Huh. However, now that brooch is broken, there won't be a next time. My last dragon scale was also gone. We no longer had any means to withstand the demi-dragon's attacks. Liliana was still fighting. Aniki still hasn't come back from disappearing into the ground. I'm all out of options. Good, yeah. The monster in front of me had become irritated at its tough prey, but it now appeared to be shaking in joy at finally being able to finish things. In a last-ditch effort, I tried drawing the knife I had received as my starting equipment. However, removing from the knife from its sheath, I discovered that its blade was broken. Before I could even use it, it seemed the repeated collisions had caused the knife to break. Shitty knife. The chances for us to survive were now 0. I looked at the unconscious girl in my arms. Her weight, her warmth, her breathing, and the emotions she had showed me. They were no different from real life. She was alive, so realistically alive. And like death in the real world, that life was about to be lost. Damn it! I couldn't give up. For me, this world was a game. It wasn't a problem if I died. But even if I know this world is a game, it'd leave a bad taste in my mouth if this girl were to disappear from it forever. I clenched my fist in frustration. On the back of that hand was my embryo in its egg-like zeroth form. Hey. Orewa. If they say an embryo is supposed to offer a player, if you're supposed to offer me infinite possibility, give me that possibility. The monster in front of me raised its head to deliver the final blow. Give me the possibility for a happy ending. The possibility to save this girl. To my left hand I pleaded. To the incarnation of this world of possibilities known as Infinite Dendrogram. I pleaded from the bottom of my heart. Wake up already! Give me even 1% of a possibility. The demi-dragon worm launched its last attack. You're an unexpectedly overbearing master, aren't you? However, I am the one that is born from you, so I don't dislike that part of you. In an instant, the fatal charge blocked by someone. Huh? Huh? Just like when my brother had disappeared into the ground, I couldn't process what was happening before my eyes. I couldn't understand why in front of me was not the tragedy that should have taken place, but instead, a miracle that shouldn't have occurred. The demi-dragon worm was supposed to kill us, had it been repelled by a wall of light, and was bent over backwards. My embryo had vanished from the back of my left hand, and in its place was a growing blue crest. Between the demi-dragon worm and us now stood a girl I didn't know. Her jet black hair waved in the wind and her skin glistened like white porcelain. She swung her gothic skirt made of black fabric and white frills as she turned to look at me. Her eyes were made of the black of night and a white that reminded me of the stars. Ohio was the first thing she said. I couldn't say anything. You seem out of it. Yare yare. Aren't you something? I should force myself to wake up. I forced myself to wake up because you told me to, and yet... The way she spoke almost made me almost made the mystique she had disappear. But her words made me think of something. Are you my embryo? Well, Chiron. Well then, Master, that damn centipede is still in good health. To cheer things up in celebration of my birthday. What do you say we finish it off in style? How? Before I could even finish asking this, the girl had disappeared. She lost her human form and turned into a swarm of black, shining lights that enveloped my right arm, and then transformed into a black greatsword. It was organic and sinister looking, but in some way, still beautiful. I'll leave the timing to you. You said coming from the sword. Swing down when the damn centipede comes charging at us. We're all going to die if you screw it up, got it? I felt like she was telling me, I gave you your chance, now the rest is up to you. Got it. I was aware there were things that needed to be done before asking any questions. The demi-dragon worm seemed to be furious at us, as it charged at us faster than it ever had before. It was a straight shot at a speed I was able to see, but not avoid. However, I still had time to swing my sword. The 3 times master almost died, and the 1 attack I absorbed. The 4 attacks you made with everything you had. Right before the jaws of the demi-dragon worm could reach me. I'll double them and pay you back, said the girl as I swung down black greatsword. Vengeance is mine, she shouted. There was an impact the moment the greatsword made contact. Then after a moment of stillness, right after the demi-dragon worm, almost as if it had been crushed by a monster several times its size, shattered into pieces starting with its head. Just exactly how many times today am I going to see something I struggle to understand? While I was thinking this, I looked at what was in front of me. The demi-dragon worm's large body was gradually breaking into pieces that turned into light and vanished. Behind me was Mylane, still unconscious, and beside me was the girl. She had changed back from the black sword. Success, success. Isn't that great, Master? You grabbed hold of the possibility you hoped for. You really are my embryo, aren't you? The girl lightly lifted her frilled skirt and bowed with contrived respect. I'm Nemesis, a type maiden with arms, embryo. I was born from your heart, body, and soul. The girl Nemesis introduced herself like that and grinned broadly. Yoroshiku ne, Master?